Trump tariffs. 2025 have shaken the global economy like never before. China has pulled back a staggering $170 billion in orders from the U.S. market. This move marks a turning point in the ongoing trade war between these two economic giants. American industries, workers, and communities are now facing unprecedented challenges. In this video, we'll break down what this means for manufacturing, jobs, and the future of global trade. Stay with us to uncover the real story behind the headlines and the impact on your life. Are U.S. policies working, or are they falling short? Let's dive deep into the facts and find out. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Boeing's $50 billion loss and Airbus's rise. China's decision to cancel billions of dollars in Boeing orders marks one of the largest setbacks in recent history. This massive shift, estimated at $50 billion, has redirected China's demand towards Airbus, Boeing's European rival. Once accounting for nearly a quarter of Boeing's global deliveries, China's market has dramatically shrunk, with Boeing delivering only one plane there in 2023. Airbus, on the other hand, now dominates China's skies with over 1,100 planes in operation and a backlog exceeding 500 jets. This pivot has sent shockwaves through the aerospace industry, impacting not only Boeing's revenues but also thousands of American jobs linked to manufacturing and supply chains. Factories in states like Washington and South Carolina have slowed down or faced layoffs as contracts evaporate. Investor confidence reflects this change, with Airbus shares rising nearly 6%, while Boeing's stock remains stagnant. More than just business, this shift carries significant geopolitical weight as China strengthens ties with Europe amid trade tensions with the U.S. The loss to Boeing is a stark reminder of how fragile global supply chains and markets can be when politics enter the equation. Understanding this dynamic is key to grasping the larger challenges faced by American manufacturing today. Impact on American workers and communities. Thousands of American workers are feeling the heavy toll of China's shift away from Boeing. Aircraft factories that once buzzed with activity are now slowing or shutting down. Machinists, welders, and technicians in states like Washington, South Carolina, and Kansas face reduced hours and uncertain futures. But it's not just Boeing employees who suffer. Hundreds of smaller suppliers and local businesses that rely on aircraft manufacturing are losing contracts and trimming staff. Entire towns built around these factories are confronting economic hardship and rising unemployment. The ripple effects extend beyond the factory floor to families and communities dependent on these jobs. With fewer opportunities, many workers struggle to find alternative employment in regions with limited industries. This human cost reveals the real-world consequences behind trade conflicts and tariff policies. It's a stark reminder that global economic decisions hit people's lives at the local level. Trump tariffs 2025. Promises versus reality. Trump tariffs 2025 were introduced with a bold promise to protect American jobs and revitalize domestic manufacturing. The goal was simple: impose higher tariffs on Chinese imports to encourage companies to bring production back to the U.S. This strategy aimed to reduce America's reliance on foreign supply chains and rebuild its industrial base. However, the reality has proven far more complex and challenging. While some sectors saw short-term gains, many businesses faced rising costs for raw materials and components. These increased expenses forced companies to either raise prices for consumers or absorb losses, squeezing profit margins. For many manufacturers, relocating factories back to the U.S. became economically unfeasible. High wages, strict environmental regulations, and costly operating expenses made overseas production more attractive despite tariffs. As a result, reshoring slowed significantly, with limited new factories and job growth. The response from American workers has been mixed, with hopes for new jobs dampened by slow progress. On the corporate side, opinions remain divided. Some praise the tariffs' intent, while others criticize the uncertainty and disruption. This contrast between promise and reality highlights the complex balance in protecting industries while navigating a global economy. Why reshoring is failing. The economic realities? Bringing manufacturing jobs back to the U.S., known as reshoring, sounds like a straightforward solution to revive American industry. But the economic realities behind this process are far more complicated. One major obstacle is the significant difference in labor costs. American workers earn substantially higher wages compared to those in countries like China, Vietnam, and Mexico. In addition to wages, strict environmental and workplace safety regulations add extra expenses for manufacturers operating domestically. Energy costs, land prices, and permit fees in the U.S. also contribute to higher overhead. Meanwhile, many foreign countries offer generous government subsidies, tax breaks, and streamlined processes to attract manufacturers. A critical hurdle lies in loopholes within the American Competitiveness Act, allowing companies to claim benefits even while operating overseas. This weakens the incentive to bring production back home and slows reshoring efforts. Combined, these factors make it financially risky and less appealing for companies to relocate factories to the U.S. Despite political pressure and tariffs, many businesses prioritize profitability over patriotic promises. Understanding these economic barriers is essential to grasp why reshoring progress remains limited. China's new strategic shift. Beyond the U.S. market, China is rapidly changing its economic strategy to reduce dependence on the U.S. market. Instead, it is focusing on strengthening its domestic economy. Over 65% of China's GDP now comes from internal consumption driven by a growing middle class. At the same time, China is expanding trade and investment across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. These regions offer new markets with rising demand and fewer political risks compared to the U.S. China has heavily invested in infrastructure projects like the Belt and Road Initiative to build stronger global ties. This diversification helps China minimize the impact of U.S. tariffs and trade tensions. By becoming more self-reliant and forging new partnerships, China aims to secure long-term economic growth. Risks for Apple, Tesla, and Ford amid trade tensions. Major American companies like Apple, Tesla, and Ford face growing risks due to ongoing trade disputes with China. These corporations rely heavily on Chinese factories for production and on the Chinese market for sales. For example, China accounts for about 20% of Tesla's global revenue, making it a crucial market. Apple depends on complex supply chains in China to assemble devices like iPhones and iPads. If trade tensions escalate, these companies may face higher tariffs, delayed product approvals, or increased local taxes. Consumer sentiment in China could also shift away from American brands. Such disruptions could increase costs, reduce profits, and shrink market share. Unlike smaller firms, these giants have limited flexibility to quickly relocate operations. The ongoing trade conflict puts them in a challenging position, balancing global business interests with geopolitical risks. Who holds the power in the trade war? The trade relationship between the U.S. and China has become increasingly asymmetric. China has worked hard to reduce its dependence on American markets and consumers. Today, only about 2 to 3% of revenue for many Chinese companies comes from the U.S. Meanwhile, U.S. businesses still rely heavily on access to China's vast market and manufacturing capabilities. This imbalance creates significant risks for the American economy. As China diversifies its trade partnerships and strengthens its domestic market, the U.S. faces growing challenges. Tariffs and trade threats may no longer hold the leverage they once did. China's reduced reliance on the U.S. limits America's ability to pressure its biggest economic rival. This shift could have long-term consequences for U.S. industries, workers, and global economic leadership. Understanding who truly holds the cards is crucial for shaping future trade policies and business strategies. Solutions and future outlook for the U.S. manufacturing crisis. To overcome the manufacturing crisis triggered by trade tensions, the U.S. must adopt a multifaceted approach. First, reforming trade policies to be more strategic and adaptive is essential. Investing heavily in advanced manufacturing technologies and innovation can help American industries regain a competitive edge. Supporting workforce development and retraining programs will prepare workers for high-tech manufacturing jobs. Diversifying supply chains by encouraging companies to source materials and production from multiple countries can reduce vulnerability. Strengthening partnerships with allies and emerging markets will open new trade opportunities beyond China. Policymakers must also close loopholes in incentive programs like the American Competitiveness Act to ensure real reshoring. Looking ahead, embracing sustainability and environmental responsibility will position the U.S. as a leader in next-generation manufacturing. While challenges remain, proactive policies and investments offer hope for revitalizing American industry. The road ahead requires collaboration between government, businesses, and workers to build a resilient economy. Staying informed and engaged will be key as this story continues to evolve. The impact of Trump tariffs 2025 and China's $170 billion exit is reshaping America's manufacturing future. American workers and industries face serious challenges ahead, but with smart policies and collective effort, recovery is possible. What do you think the U.S. should do next? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated. Thanks for watching.